a second to return to regular session.
Motion to return.
Second.
Victoria, then Stephanie.
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And a moment of silence. Thank you. Mr. Gianella, presentations?
We have one presentation tonight. We have to do I believe, a bi-yearly harassment, intimidation, and bullying mandated training, so I think Mr. Mosley is prepared to do that. You have a PowerPoint for us, Mr. Mosley?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you.
These are the cases we had this year and last year. You notice we did have a few schools that did increase, but we will be addressing those areas. For example, like Brick Memorial, they went up by 2, but one student had 2 different cases that he was involved in as a victim. So those are numbers. Lake Riviera, we will be working with this year, and VMES. Thank you. Programs. Each school runs their own program. The specialists continue to coordinate at their level, making sure that they are appropriate for their age group. Each program that they do, we track, and we just try and maintain coordination across the district in that area. Training, we attempt to make it consistent throughout the district, so everyone's on the same sheet of music. We've involved different strategies and methods this year. For example, the ABSs from Township and Memorial both went up to the New Jersey Law Center for training in bullying. We've had our conference last year, and we'll be actually getting together next week with the ABSs to go over. And this year we also had GCN provide all the HIB training online for the whole staff, and that'll be continuing this year. Elementary school focus has been on character education. We're using Kelso's Choices and the New Jersey Law Curriculum. Counseling for those students that we've seen as having problems. And then we have also had a lot of different programs, once again we say programs, to promote diversity and acceptance at that level. Middle school, once again, this focus still remains on character education. We've done 8th grade indoctrination. We've done 8th grade presentations by high school students. On both sides of town, we had the high schoolers going down to the middle schoolers and talking to them about the transition and also just how to deal with life as a middle schooler. This year we instituted a mentoring program in conjunction with school-based on both sides of town. There we had the schools actually identify some of the students that they perceive as having problems, and once again we're trying to work with the high schoolers and giving them some ownership. They've been going down and working with those students that the middle schools identify. High school character education, that's a consistent message throughout the district. We have the Society of Influence and Game Changers at both high schools. We meet weekly. They meet with the mayor. BMHS, we had a positive comment wall, which we did. We'll be doing one here at Township this year, assemblies. School-based, and once again, the mentoring of the middle schools that we've been doing this year. Any questions on training that we'll be doing?
Any board member questions? Thank you, Mr. Mosley.
Sure.
All right. Committee reports. Committee reports. I'm going to start with facilities. They met on August 18th. George?
Okay, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Barton and I serve on the Facilities Committee, and we're very happy to report to you that the paving and the curbing behind Brick High School is all finished. Really looks great. Even The parking lots are lined, so they've done a great job. And I really want to compliment our facilities manager on the job that he's done in overseeing that also. Also, the paving for Lake Riviera is actually completed. Just a few things to finish up, and we'll be all done be all finished by the time school begins. On the windows project, the second phase is almost finished. There's a second phase because we had to have a change order for some windows that were missed in the initial round. The air conditioning needs have been just about completed. There are a couple that are exceptions that we are working on yet. And again, Mr. Colabas, our facilities manager, is doing a wonderful job there. The east gym of the high school is being worked on now. The bleachers have been removed, and I think painting is taking place, and the floors will be started on soon. So that's been a big sore on our side for a long time. It's getting done. It won't be finished by the time school begins, but it should be finished by the end of first semester. Okay?
And to continue, the Facilities Committee will ask the board approval this evening to have New Jersey's safety grant funds shifted to kind of complete the windows at Drum Point Elementary School. Along with the windows, we found that the window sills needed to be replaced. It's been out to bid a few times. It's come in over budget a couple of times, which is why we're asking the money to be transferred in. It's just a little over budget, but we're not using marble materials, and we're actually still looking for another quote to see if we can get the project completed at the most efficient cost available. Also on the agenda this evening, committee is requesting CHA be approved for future work. We finished the 2 parking lots, Brick High School and Lake Riviera Middle School. Our next project we're looking at doing would be the VETS parking improvements. So that's the design phase. We're looking for the agenda this evening is looking to have the design work at VETS Complex for parking. And then finally, there's a savings on the agenda tonight also for approval, GeoPeak and power purchase agreement for solar. The solar contract is being amended, and the first part of the amendment is an extension of the completion date, which doesn't affect the payback or the amount of money that is going to be charged. Another portion of that is the size of the system had to be adjusted. And because the size of the system is being adjusted, we have a pretty significant increase in the savings to the district. It looks like from $1,077,066 to $1,198,408. $1,198,408. So we're almost $198,000, $200,000 in increased savings, and that's also on first for the approval this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie, Finance?
Sure. We had a Finance Committee meeting on August 18th at 11 a.m. Myself, Victoria, Mr. Gianella, and Mr. Edwards were present. We went over the prescription and medical benefit change update. Mr. Edwards informed the committee that the change from prospectively insured to self-insured for medical has been seamless. He indicated that the change in prescription has not. He noted that there were some system edits that CVS needed to work through, which seemed to be handled at this point. He noted that the biggest issue seems to be the difference in formulary drugs and the employees not wanting to change from one brand name drug to another. Mr. Gianella informed the committee that a meeting has been set up with CVS, Fairview, and the union presidents to discuss the formulary issues and address any other concerns. Mr. Edwards informed us of a shared services with Lakewood Board of Education for vehicle repairs and maintenance that we were looking to move forward with. Unfortunately, there was a misunderstanding. We thought we were only going to be servicing 30 new buses. Lakewood thought we would be servicing 30 new buses and the 25 existing buses. So unfortunately, we're not able to handle that increase, so we will not be moving forward with that. But Mr. Edwards did indicate that Lakewood Board of Ed would like to consider utilizing our fuel depot and that this could be accommodated, so an agreement may be forthcoming as Lakewood explores its fueling options. The 2015-2016 audit update, Mr. Edwards informed the committee that he's been in touch with the new auditors and they plan on beginning the audit in late September. The audit is due to New Jersey Department of Education by December 5th of this year, and he does not anticipate any issues with the auditors being able to complete the audit by that date. Lease purchase agreement. Mr. Edwards informed the committee that since the Phase 2 of the Windows projects was added to the overall project, the project will take longer than originally expected, and therefore the lease with the Bank of America will need to be extended through December 31st of this year. He indicated that Bank of America has already agreed to the extension. The Facilities Committee agrees with the extension, and therefore the amendment would be placed on tonight's agenda. Licensing agreement for arsenic and Old Lace play. Mr. Edwards informed the committee that most of the changes to the agreement requested through attorney review have not been made by the vendor. He indicated that the response from the vendor and the suggested changes would be placed on the admin content on the agenda. The committee indicated that for future meetings, any agreement less than $6,000 where the changes have not been agreed to by the vendor do not need to come to committee, but can rather be placed on the agenda with notes in the admin content. Solar renewable energy credits. Mr. Edwards informed the committee that the additional 480 SRECs and that the Brick Memorial High School solar array produced were sold to two different vendors. 300 at $245 to DTE Energy and 180 at $242.50 to Bajora. I'm sorry, am I saying that right, Mr. Edwards?
Your guess is as good as mine.
Okay. Bajora Nahim Commodities LLC. He noted that both agreements would be placed on tonight's agenda for approval. A la carte pricing. Mr. Edwards shared with the committee that the recommended pricing for a la carte items in the cafeteria as provided by Ms. Richardson. He noted that only 2 items were being increased in price from the prior year. The committee agreed to place the pricing on tonight's agenda for approval. Mondon Routes, Mr. Gianella informed the committee that Mr. Edwards and Mr. Wilson found a solution to increase 2 part-time drivers by 2.5 hours each, thus opening up 2 part-time spots, which would then allow the Mondon routes to be done in-house with more stops than the routes would have had if they were going to be done through MOESC. Staff tuition. Mr. Gianella informed the committee that he has received 2 requests from staff who do not live in Brick to have their children attend Brick schools. He indicated that he was going to recommend the past practice and charge the staff members 50% of the tuition rate. The committee agreed that once the details were finalized, the tuition agreements should be placed on the agenda for approval. Transportation. I had requested that transportation be reminded how important it is that the parents be able to reach someone when calling about transportation issues, especially during the first few weeks of school. Mr. Edwards indicated that he would relay that message to Mr. Wilson for me. The date of the next meeting will be September 20th at 2 p.m. That's it.
Thank you. Victoria, Curriculum and Instruction.
So exciting curriculum and instruction, it's why we're all here. I'm proud to say that our curriculum meeting held on August 11th was a presentation by the STEM Academy teachers from both high schools regarding their STEM training and the student camp. We're ahead, in my opinion, on the next generation science standards in that this new program will promote student-driven learning and particularly problem-based learning. I just briefly like to share with you the mission and goal of the program. The mission of the Brick Township STEM Plus Academy is to develop a team of learners who positively contribute to society, prepare students for college and post-secondary STEM careers, instruct using relevant, rigorous, and innovative instructional strategies in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, English, and social studies coursework. It is the goal to provide an engaging and educational environment utilizing the unique project-based learning models in which students can develop the necessary social, academic, and problem-solving skills to be successful in this ever-changing world. I think it's important to note that although STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, the social studies and English language arts component is also woven in to this curriculum so that across the curriculum, students will have a heightened knowledge and ability to problem solve with many, many pieces of relevant information. And I would just like Ms. McNamara, our Director of Curriculum, to just briefly tell us a little bit about the training that the STEM Academy went through and that the students experienced.
Thank you, Mrs. Pacala. During the summer months in June and then again in August, the STEM Academy teachers came together. They talked at length about the millennial learner and the way in which students learn today. They spoke about the next generation science standards and certainly looked at the cross-cutting concepts. They're focused on cross-curricular projects, and while they will do individual problem-based learning within their specific content area, they've selected a particular problem-based learning project to go across the curriculum, and so they'll be looking to reduce the carbon footprint. As we move through the year with that particular project, I think there'll probably be many exciting presentations from that group, and we hope that we have an opportunity to invite the community in to see them. The students of the first STEM Academy for Brick attended a camp. It was right here at Brick Township High School with all of their STEM teachers present. The very first day of STEM camp, they participated in team building where they did the lower course for ropes, and the students were amazed at the way in which participating in that particular activity with their teachers taught them many things in terms of team building, but also in risk-taking and in trusting their other peers. They moved forward and did a number of different activities over the next 2 days that spoke to the problem-based learning that they'll be doing throughout the school year, and solved many problems right within those 2 days together as they worked as teams. All of the students felt as though it was an extremely worthwhile experience and are lobbying to have us have a longer STEM camp next year. They enjoyed it that much and felt they really gained a great deal from it. They participated in Google Classroom, where they've been able to continue to collaborate since camp closed, and will continue to work on their problem-based learning through that Google Classroom, and will have a presentation ready in September to present to the board and to the community. Thank you, Mrs. Pacala.
And just one other note as far as curriculum instruction goes, we did receive an extensive report from Ms. McNamara on the professional training, professional development training days that are going to take place on the 1st and 2nd.
Yes.
And one of the things that made me very proud of our staff was that when solicited as to what they would like training on, the overwhelming response was more instruction on the Google Classroom. And I just think that indicates how much further our teachers are being challenged and meeting the challenge to come into this next century of instruction and problem-based learning for our students.
Thank you. Stephanie, policy.
Actually, Dennis, I think, is going.
Yes. If we can ask Mr. Philippone to fill us in on what's on the board agenda tonight?
Thank you, Mr. Gianella. The policy committee met on August 17th, and what we did was review the contract from New Jersey school boards to review and revise our district policies. As you know, it's very important that those policies are current, reflect current law, and we are going to be entering into a contract. It's on the agenda for this evening for a vote from the board to have New Jersey school boards provide that service, as well as an online component to that.
And Mrs. Cusinelli pointed out she didn't believe that online component was added. If it's not added tonight, you'll see it next month, because the policy committee believed it was an important part of the policy decision.
Mr. Gianella, it is going to, there was no contract for that particular piece, but it is on the agenda in the board notes. It'll be approved by a purchase order.
Oh, okay.
So it is on there.
Okay.
Cool. And Victoria, finally, HR.
HR. Well, there are a lot of very routine, standard business items on the agenda tonight, but we did note that that Mr. Gianella will explain later, an addition of a security officer to be hired at Brick Memorial High School, falling within the current budget numbers, and also that the technology department did not use all the funds allotted for summer work and are going to retain some part-time employees to continue special projects throughout the year, funded through what we already approved for the summer.
Mrs. Bacala just mentioned the security issue at Brick Memorial, and the past administration and the current administration felt that they could use, because of the structure of the building and some concerns they had, a second security guard, but we did not budget for that. So we worked with the current administration on freeing up some teachers, so we didn't need to hire an internal suspension teacher, a gas teacher, which is the same price we pay for a security guard. So we were able to recommend tonight a second security guard for Brick Memorial High School, a retired state trooper with some expertise in working with students, and we're happy to have him.
Thank you. Interim superintendent's report.
Okay. This is a great time of year, because not only is the weather still warm, but we start getting around schools and seeing some of the work being done over the summer coming to a completion, and we start seeing students in schools and staff in schools. And I was around this week to most of the schools to see some of the projects and how they were going and how we were getting ready. And it was good to see, especially in the high school, a lot of students at different activities. But it was also pleasant to see so many teachers volunteering their time to come in and get their classrooms ready. I didn't go to a school where I didn't see a number of teachers in their classrooms working, and I thank them for that volunteering and getting ready for the opening of classrooms. Professional development is moving forward. We're continuing to work on a professional development room in the administration room, where we're going to be able to provide some professional development and get some high-end or really well-founded professional development there at a pretty low cost or for free for our staff. I also was part of a phone conference today with Ocean County College, and I'm negotiating, and hopefully by September put before the board an opportunity for professional development, where we'll be a pilot district working with Ocean County College on some high-end online professional development that will be free for us, because we'll be one of the pilot districts, and the state, believe it or not, may be picking up the cost. So that's exciting stuff that we're working on, and I think it's needed. I want to thank the facilities committee, but also the facilities workers in the district. Our buildings are starting to come together and look good, but the parking lots, as Mr. White said, have come together. If you look at the rear of this building or Lake Riviera, there are improvements for picking up students in buses and discharging students in buses and making a much safer environment. And also the gym is coming together at Brick High School, and as Mr. White said, it's not going to be open for the first day of school, but it will be open as soon as we can get it after that, and it will be a big improvement, and we're working with the staff here at Brick High School to get all that stuff done. Professional Day, as was mentioned already, September 1st and 2nd, we're looking for that. Teachers are in their schools on the 1st, and we're dividing up and have a district day on the 2nd. And I've mentioned before that we have an exciting motivational speaker coming who's a graduate of Brick Township, and we look forward to that and doing a lot of good things there. I'm going to ask Mr. Philippone to go over some of the sustainable school information he has most recently. That is good news for the townships or the district. So, Mr. Philippone, you want to fill us in?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gianella. At our last board meeting, Mr. Barton talked about the Green Schools Initiative, and we're very, very fortunate that two schools within our district have been recognized this month by Sustainable New Jersey, which is the overriding organization that the Green Schools Initiative falls under. First, I'd like to congratulate Dr. Caldez and Mr. O'Cone from Brick Township Memorial High School. They submitted a grant to Sustainable New Jersey for a health and wellness activity. And they were they were the only school in Ocean County to receive that grant. And that grant will be used at Memorial to develop active fitness, PE electives, and purchase equipment and technology. I'd also like to congratulate Dr. Anderson and her green team at Lake Rivera Middle School for receiving bronze certification from Sustainable New Jersey. There are only 34 schools in the entire state that have met that level of success in their endeavors for the Green School Initiative. They are a model for the other schools in the district, and as we move forward, we hope that we'll have more schools that can emulate their success. But we're very, very fortunate to have two schools within the district that were recognized by that organization. We're very proud of it. Thank you, Mr. Gianella.
Thank you, Mr. Philippone. Mr. Philippone is heading up that Green School Initiative, and I know we have some community help on that. Mr. Hyphantis met with him and giving his expertise, so we look forward to moving that forward to all of our schools this coming year. That's the interim report, superintendent's report. Mr. Lamella?
Thank you. I need a motion and a second for curriculum and instruction.
I make that motion.
Victoria first,
Second.
Stephanie second.
Mr. Gianella, to the Board of Education, the curriculum instruction, the interim superintendent recommends the board approve the following items 1 through 3.
Thank you, Mrs. McNamara. Mrs. Walrob was bothering me, I'm sorry. She asked me a question, and I was a little bit lax of getting that done. Sorry, Mr. Lamella.
It's all good. All right. Tom, do you have anything to add to curriculum and instruction numbers?
No, they're
Generic.
pretty much routine motions for this time of year.
Any board comment on curriculum and instruction?
No.
Seeing none, any public comment on curriculum and instruction? Seeing none. Mary?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Pacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrath?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. I need a motion and a second for operations.
Motion.
John Barton first,
Second.
Stephanie second.
Mr. Edwards, operations, please.
The interim superintendent recommends the board approve items 1 through 30.
Any board comment? Go ahead.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just had a couple questions on that section.
Go ahead.
In number 2, what exactly are the revisions to the June board secretary's report? I didn't see any note on what had changed.
Jim?
There's too many to list, Karen. When we give you the June report back in July, only have ended the month by about, 15 days. After that, we get invoices, of course, that come in for services that need to be booked as accounts payable. We get our workman's comp actual report that we need to change the reserve. So there's many changes.
End of the year.
So the only reason we give you that report back in July is because statutorily we're required to give you a report within 45 days, and if we waited till today, we wouldn't meet that requirement. So we always give you that report in July with the notation on it that there will be another report, a revision coming.
Okay, thank you. Did I look at that correctly? Was there approximately $6 million left over at the end of the school year as of June 30th?
If you go to page, the best way to look at it is if you go to page 3, That tells you the variance between revenues and appropriations. So yes, we're going to be adding $6,059,014.60 to our fund balance.
Okay, thank you. And also on number 15, in that section, where it talks about employee of student, I think it probably means student of employee, but what is the rate? It talks about 50% of the applicable tuition rate. What is that rate for this year?
Each level, elementary, middle school, and high school, has a different rate. Mr. Edwards, do you have that information in front of you?
I do not. I don't have that in front of me. I could,
It's going to be about, 50% of the middle school rate was about $6,500. I can get you the exact number, but it's about $6,500.
Do we have to approve that number every year?
Yes, that is approved, Mr. Edwards. Isn't that approved in?
it's approved as part of the budget process.
Yeah.
When you adopt at this point, 16-17 school budget, the tuition rates are calculated through the program that the Department of Education provides.
Where can somebody look to see that number?
It's in our 2016-17 budget, which is online. as you were,
In the detailed budget,
Yes.
it would list the tuition for elementary, for middle, and for secondary?
correct.
Okay.
I can get you that 50% rate if you want.
Okay, yeah, I couldn't find it. Also, in number 16, the IEP software, when I looked that up, is it the same company that used to be called Centris, but now it's been acquired by Frontline? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there's no change in that from last year?
Correct. It's just all they're looking to do is extend the contract.
Okay, and in number 25, I was a little confused. That was the non-fair and open appointment of CHA consultants for the Veterans Memorial Parking Lot project. Didn't we already approve T&M to do that back in, I think it was March, at our March meeting?
No, we did not.
Because I had printed off to approve a resolution for civil engineering services for Veterans Memorial Parking Complex.
That was for a different project. It was for the underground piping that they repaired, that they oversaw the repair of.
So that was different.
Different project.
So we didn't have any of this scope of work done already by a previous?
That's correct.
Okay. And how did, so that was no bid again? That was, how did we get CHA?
CHA was approved at the last board meeting as the civil engineer of record.
Okay. So why did that have to be another appointment then on this agenda?
Well, because now you're approving them to actually do work.
Oh, okay. Okay. And also, just in number 30, that was added on, and I did not see any detail on what that was. Could you just give me a general explanation of what that is?
Yeah,
Please.
sure. The GeoPeak, who is the vendor that we're under contract now with the power purchase agreement, in their contract, it states that they would like to assign that contract to another vendor, that we have to give consent to that assignment.
So that was their decision, and we're giving them
Right,
consent to do
they're
that?
asking for consent to assign it to NJR Clean Energy Ventures.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Any other board comment on operations? Seeing none, any public comment on operations? Seeing none, Mary?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Pacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrab?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. I'm getting there. Human Resources, I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Stephanie first,
Second.
Victoria second.
Ms. Osborne?
The interim superintendent recommends the board approve items listed 1 through 31.
And before we have discussion, if I can just make note for the board, items 17 and 19, where on 17, we have about 60 staff members volunteering for clubs, and on 19, a number of people volunteering for coaches, and we thank them for their efforts for the children of Brick Township.
Thank you. Any board comment on Human Resources? Karen, go ahead.
Yes, I just had a question on number 25. Why are we approving the master schedule? We've never done that in the past, so that kind of stood out to me. The transportation master schedule?
Mr. Edwards? I'm not sure why, if it wasn't done before, but Mr. Edwards, you want to go over that?
Yeah, it's my understanding that it's part of the new policies that were adopted, that the transportation routes need to be adopted annually by the Board of Education.
Do we have to re-vote every time there's a modification? Does it have to go on the agenda and be reapproved?
I wouldn't want to make that interpretation. I would turn to Nick for that.
If we're approving the master schedule, any modification would require a vote.
Okay. And what policy indicates that?
I don't know it off the top of my head, but it's my understanding it is a board policy.
I can get you that number.
Any idea like what the title would be or anything? Because again, this is all new, so I...
No, I didn't research it. Sorry. That's what I asked the same question, Karen. That's what I was told, so I went with it.
Okay.
I figured it can't hurt to have it approved.
I was just concerned that every time there's a change, we're going to...
Mr. Wilson, you're in
That's
the
what
audience.
we-
Do you know the policy number off the top of your head? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any public comment on human resources? Seeing none. Mary?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrab?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Okay, I'd like to open up the floor for public comment. Sir, go ahead up. Any public comment? Thank you, sir. All right.
Rather than hold this. Okay, just a little note to the superintendent and the school board. During the June meeting, as you might recall, I brought up the excessive costs associated with the life-saving medication, those EpiPens. I thought the price at the time, the increase was way too high, and the school district, in order to save money, for some parents, should furnish a supply to each school and have each child that thought they may need it, in order to save the township money. In an emergency, they were able to use it because of the known allergies such as peanuts, eggs, bees, or any other thing that they might have, pay $50 a year to the school district. And if they didn't use it, guess what? $50 is cheaper. So the school, it seems, requires that the parents send it to the schools, an EpiPen with the child's name on it each year. The cost of these EpiPens a couple of years back were $100, and that was about 2 years ago. But since the new owners of the drug company have taken over, the costs now range to approximately $500 for this life-saving medication. In reality, most of the EpiPens are returned to the parents at the end of the school year, just before expiration of the full useful life of the EpiPen. In that June meeting, when I brought it to the attention of the school board, the interim superintendent, as we recall, stated that the schools all have EpiPens on hand. So at that time, I basically said, if that's the case, then shouldn't the school district post that on the school's district's website and inform parents not to bring it into the schools? The superintendent then reiterated his statement that the schools all have EpiPens. With that in mind, I urge the township and the Board of Education to state that fact on their websites and save the parents that $500, $600. The news to fight the cost increases has started, so let us all do our part. It's happening around the country now. More and more people are talking about it. One quick note, among the members of Congress who have weighed in, Senator Grassley, a Republican of Iowa, wrote in a letter that the cost is so high that it has forced some of the first responders to consider making their own kits with the drug, which I can't say, vials and syringes also. I am concerned that the substantial price increase could limit access to a much-needed medication. The medication costs about $1. It's the delivery system that costs the money, they say. In addition, it could create an unsafe situation for parents, for patients as people, untrained in medical procedures and so they are incentivized to make their own kits from the raw material, he said, because of the excessive cost it's gone up, from $54 about 7 years ago to $500 to $600 now. Okay. Also, separately, Senator Amy Klobuchar, a Democrat of Minnesota, so it's both parties, has called the Federal Trade Commission to look into the company's competitive pricing. Senator Bernie Sanders, who some of us might know, of Vermont, tweeted his outrage as well. Let us here at the school board and the superintendent's office and the township in general join the effort, urge the governor and all our state representatives to do the same and try to drive these costs down, and also at the same time let everybody know that the school district has them, so those people don't have to spend $500. And this way, a price increase that we have here at the school district on taxes will be, for some people at least, eliminated. Okay, thank you. John Sluka, 950 Sylvia Court, I didn't mention it, sorry.
Mr. Sluka, thank you. I called the superintendent 2 days ago upon doing some research and reading some of the articles that had come out regarding the exorbitant cost and the CEO's increase in pay raise. The superintendent looked into it, and I believe he's gotten some answers for us, so I'll let him take it.
The increase in cost for the EpiPen has been on the news, and my personal opinion, it sounds outrageous, but I will leave that to people smarter than me and who are more knowledgeable than me to make that decision, and perhaps our lawmakers will help us out with that. We carry EpiPens for emergencies. We're not a prescription, we're not doctors, we're not drugstores. We're not allowed to use them except for emergencies, except when somebody comes in and brings it for their child. I don't know if there's a difference in dosage in EpiPens or not. I don't never used one. I don't know anything about it, but we would have to, and like I said, there's a Good Samaritan Act that allows us to use them for emergency and be protected, but we couldn't store 6 or 7 of them for whoever wants them when they bring in a prescription. We're not a drugstore. The parents have to do that and give it to us. That's the way the system works. That's the way the law allows the system to work, but it does allow us, like I said before, to have one on hand for an emergency.
I know that's not the answer you wanted, and I work in a school, and I've seen in our school with 1,300 students, we could have 70 to 80 EpiPens. Some students have to carry with them. Some parents provide 4 of them. Correct me if I'm wrong, Tom. 4 of them to put one in every teacher's drawer, even if the student has their own. And some are very mild. It's a case-by-case basis. We do have them for emergency purposes, but I want to thank the superintendent for researching it. And again, I know it's not the answer you wanted from us, but at least we do have them for emergencies. And I hear what you're saying. I hear the underpinnings and I hear the tone. And I want you to know that I acknowledge that. And I thank you for that. And I wish we could. And maybe if the lawmakers do push and we become a part of that, something can happen. Any other public comment? Seeing none, board comment. I will start with, who's first down there? Karen, you're up first.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to talk about something that we had been discussing at length at the last meeting. There was a lot of discussion about some windows projects in the district, and you know, after going to so many meetings over the years, it's hard to have instant recall. So I went to my notes and my old notebooks, and I just wanted to clarify that back in our facilities committee meetings back in February of 2015 and in March, what had happened was we were given 2 options by the architect at the time, 2 different design concepts. One was for the cowl wall windows, one was for the aluminum. And at the time, one of our volunteers, Mr. Campbell, had provided the pros and cons of both window types, and the committee members then went out to the schools and viewed the different kinds, and we kind of, you know, looked at all aspects of it, the energy efficiency and whatnot. And then at that time, we opted for the cowl wall, and then the architect took it from there. Also, in my notes, I see that there was extensive discussion about evaluating the air conditioners at the time, and so all of that was very different than the discussion that occurred. So I just wanted to offer up that I do have, you know, a lot of information, so if any board members who were not on the board or not in this area at the time, if they'd like to come to me, I certainly am an extensive note keeper, so I have a lot of information I'm always happy to share, so that we're not giving misinformation to the public. Also, I also wanted to thank everybody in the district who's working so diligently getting the schools ready for the opening of school, particularly our facilities and grounds people, because I know that this is a very busy time of year and everything is shaping up so nicely. And I would also just like to wish everybody all the best in the upcoming school year.
Thank you.
Thanks.
George?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I had the opportunity to meet with the teachers, the STEM teachers, back, I believe it was on August 11th, and they're very excited about this new STEM Academy, and I am too. I think it's going to be a big positive step for the students in the Brick school system. I also met with a meeting with Mr. Philippone and Mr. Wilson about the transportation of students to the private schools, and I think Mr. Philippone and Mr. Wilson did really a super job in trying to work that problem out. So my compliments to them. And also, I want to compliment all the teachers and administration for getting school ready to open up within a week or so. So I hope you have a great year.
Thank you, George. John?
Congratulations to Base Camp for successfully completing the summer program. The talent show was quite the show. I spent almost 2 hours watching the students just enjoying themselves, having a good time, and building character together, bonding with the friends that they spend so many years in school with. So I was very pleased to have the opportunity to come in and look at that. Weather-wise, I think it worked in Base Camp's favor. And I'd also like to thank the teachers that have come in and started the school year. Some of the elementary schools have started with something called Kindergarten Roundup, which is the opportunity to transition children to the schools for the first time. And I believe that we had a successful Kindergarten Roundup in Emma Havens Young School, so congratulations to them. Sustainable New Jersey. It's important for us to continue every month to remind the staff and the students that we're here to save the environment for our children and for the future. So our current bronze award came on very quick, and the grant that's coming up is just exciting to me, and I hope that that continues. I'll do anything that needs to be done. I'll help in any way I can to see that go forward. Good luck, everybody, next week, and have a safe, healthy school year. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephanie?
Oh, my turn. I just want to wish everybody I hope everybody enjoys the last couple of weeks before school starts. I'm looking forward to school starting. I have my kids at home with me right now. And it's been a fun couple of weeks. We're getting them all ready, but thank you to everybody that's doing all this work to get our kids ready and the schools ready for our kids to come in. And I hope everybody has a really wonderful Labor Day.
Awesome. Victoria?
I just would like a clarification. Am I to understand that an unelected member of the public was charged with researching and recommending projects that cost the district hundreds of thousands of dollars?
I believe we did have that discussion last meeting, and I believe that is probably part of Karen's notes.
If you know what, if you'd like,
Excuse
I
me.
have the minutes right
Let
here
me
if you want
finish.
me to read them.
Thank you. We had this debate last meeting. Mr. Campbell did say that he was not a part of the board, but he was appointed by the board. In lieu of that fact, and the fact that I don't want a public debate on this at the end of the meeting, Ms. Cusinelli does have the notes. I would strongly suggest that me, as president, and you, Ms. Bacala, we will set up a meeting with Ms. Cusinelli and Mr. Edwards to review her notes and
No,
check the...
I believe the notes exist. I just,
Yeah.
I question the practice.
Thank you. Duly noted.
Do we have a
Now, before I go, I just said to the superintendent, there's a young lady standing at the podium. So although we have closed that session, I would not say too bad. So if you have something to say, please, it's your floor, go ahead.
I apologize.
No, it's all good.
I didn't wear my glasses and I couldn't see. Kim Muller, 331 Madison Court. I was here on June 23rd asking for help about my son Cameron, who still does not have a placement in the district. I all sent you an email prior to June's meeting discussing Cameron's IEP meeting and how that happened. Let me go back to that. At the child study team, I asked them why they weren't willing to at least try him in the integrated program. At that point, Mrs. Donna Stump said, fine, you can have the integrated program, but no aid and no summer school. At that point, me and my advocate went outside to discuss it. We came back in, continued the meeting, and that meeting concluded with Mrs. Donna Stump saying that she needed to bring that to the director. As of May 20th, Susan Jurowitz had never heard of Cameron Muller. No one brought it to her attention. When she asked Mrs. Stump and Mrs. Gonzalez, the case manager, what it was in reference to, both reiterated that was not what was stated at the meeting. This meeting was recorded by Mrs. Jen Favo and myself. In July, I was offered to change case managers to Beth Canfield. I declined that because during the IEP meeting, Mrs. Canfield looked at me and said, you don't get this just because you want it, in reference to Cameron being in the integrated program. So, as July goes on, so that Cameron would start school on time, I proposed, what if we split the 2.5 hours, half self-contained, half integrated? The answer was no. I then asked if he was as severely delayed as Mrs. Gonzalez claims he is, why isn't it being offered the 5-hour program? She didn't answer. I then suggested, give him the 5-hour program. We do 2.5 hours self-contained, 2.5 hours integrated, just like the surrounding districts. She said, absolutely not. 2.5 hours self-contained, that's what he's going to get. Mrs. Gonzalez felt that she couldn't write an IEP that she was not in agreement with. So at this point, I don't feel I can file for mediation because Mrs. Gonzalez, Ms. Fabo made it clear that they won't sign an IEP they don't agree with, and Mrs. Canfield made it clear what her intentions were for my son. So now here we are today, 12 days. 12 days for Cameron to be placed in an integrated preschool class to be taught alongside his non-disabled peers. Sorry, excuse me a second. That's what the past 5 months have been about. Cameron's a 3-year-old child, not a diagnosis, not a case number. He deserves equal opportunity to an education in a classroom of non-disabled peers, and New Jersey state and federal laws have been written to ensure that happens. Though he is cognitively delayed, he continues to learn and meet milestones every day. He's a model of behaviors and actions, thrives on routine, and excels in social and group interactions. Years of studies have shown children with Down syndrome do much better in inclusive settings, from higher standardized test scores to higher graduation rates, leading to college and appropriate job placement. In addition, it's proven that children with Down syndrome bring more to a class that can be taught from a textbook, the ability to see beyond a disability. My mother and husband never met anybody with Down syndrome until Cameron was born. I didn't until senior year in high school when I volunteered to help at the Special Olympics. I'm sure most of you have a similar experience. Integrating Cameron at 3 years old gives his classmates the opportunity to learn the lesson that being different isn't a bad thing. In a world where everyone needs to be better and everyone gets a medal so they don't feel bad, Cameron can show them that being slower still gets you there and what determination and hard work really look like, because things do take him longer and concepts are harder to grasp, but he gets there. Segregating Cameron is not a solution to the problem. The real problem is in thinking that doing things differently is wrong and needs to be hidden away. He's the hardest worker I've ever seen, and it's beautiful to watch when he achieves success. It's something everyone should get to experience. While Cameron applies for a job, the interviewer will most likely be a typical person. He'll have a better chance at getting the job if the person has been exposed to another student with Down syndrome all through school in an inclusive classroom, rather than the proverbial room at the end of the hall. Inclusion for Cameron during the foundation of his educational career is imperative. You now have 12 days left to give Cameron placement in the integrated preschool program, and you have nothing to lose. Do not fail him. You would be denying his classmates and staff the opportunity to see what he's capable of and break stereotypes of children with Down syndrome. You have 12 days to presume competence. Thank you.
Mrs. Mueller, are you telling me that Mrs. Jurowitz never called you back?
She did?
She did call you back.
There's no resolution?
Okay. This is what we should do, because I think I told you last time when we spoke that the superintendent or the board doesn't have the right to overrule a child study team. There's a process for that, but I think you have the right to be heard, and if you haven't been heard with respect and your voice hasn't been heard, given some weight, then that's a problem that we have. So Mr. Philippone's going to take your information. He has some background in special ed. He's going to set up a meeting so you can sit down with Mrs. Jurowitz and maybe go over some of these things and find out exactly why some of your wishes aren't being met. I think at least we deserve that, and let's see if we can come to some resolution. That'll be done. He'll call you on Monday, and we'll have that meeting before the end of next week, before school starts.
Thank you.
Thank you. He said everything I was going to say. Only I was going to tell you to give your name and phone number to him, and he would take care of it.
That's why the superintendent.
Yeah. Okay, so in closing, I'm last. There's a lot of people to thank, and when the meetings go quick and we get to the end, I want to thank our drivers and our transportation people for really helping us. The hard work by Mr. Filippone and Mr. Gilnella with regard to the private school busing. We started out low, we came back well, and although I know I can't make everyone happy is based on some of the letters I've received, the majority are, and I thank you for that, and your people. Professional development, awesome. The pilot with OCC, it's a place we need to be and be ahead of others. Facilities, everyone has said it. I did apologize to the custodian at Brick Memorial for walking on the waxed floor. And at least I was not a workman's comp case, so I almost fell on my ass. But it is clean and it is awesome. Also, to the teachers who were able to get in their classroom by the small alley of class they didn't wax, kudos to them for being in their classrooms August 10th, August 15th. They're setting up, getting it done, and to see the amount of money they spend on their own, and I know people don't want to hear it, and we worry about our taxes, and people buying fabric and felt, and going to these teaching stores and spend hundreds of their own dollars just to decorate their classes, to get them going, to make it a nice learning environment. It's nice to see. So to our teachers, thank you. To Brick Township High School, I had an opportunity to bump into a few of the staff members here, and I said, geez, I feel bad about the gym. And their excitement of don't feel bad, we've got this. That sense of family, that sense of we'll work through this, this is for the kids. We did it with the science wing. That was amazing. Everybody has bought in to that project, and like I said, it's awesome. Windows inefficiencies, I can't comment on. I'll talk to Karen, I'll get her views on it, and I've spoken to Mr. Edwards, and I'm sure I'll be able to put something together. And if I made any errors, I will certainly correct myself. Sustainability, kudos, Mr. Filippone, thank you. It's something I'm big on. Please follow through with all our schools. When one school gets a bronze medal, I say make that the model school, and how do we all get it? Let's all get after it. Yep. And I think that's awesome. And finally, to Ms. McNamara, if I've shoved anything down her throat as a pain in the ass board president, it has been project-based learning. I'm a huge believer. It's the way education needs to go, to get away from a factory model into a technology model and make these kids really, really be where they need to be for the real world. There was an article released, I believe, in the New York Times a few months ago that our big industries are importing people from overseas, and it is not because of the academic piece, it's because they cannot problem solve. We need to stop teaching to the test, incorporate it into project and problem-based learning, and get these kids ready. We are far ahead of most of our peers in that regard, so I want to thank you. So my thank yous are over. I would like to thank the public for coming out tonight. I'd like to thank all the people for their efforts. Again, I'm just happy to be here, and I'm glad we're going in the direction we're going. I need to go over some dates because I printed them all, and I must say this at the end because I always forget. I'm almost there. Okay, September 1st and 2nd, Staff and Professional Development Day. No school for students. September 5th is Labor Day. Schools are closed. September 6th, first day for students. Yes, they do come back. September 29th will be the next regular Board of Ed meeting. I'd like to thank you all for coming. Thank you. Mary? Motion to adjourn? I need a motion and a second.
Second?
I'll make the first, Victoria will make the second. Mary?
Ms. Cusinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Barton?
Yes.
Ms. Bacala?
Yes.
Ms. Walrab?
Yes.
Mr. White?
Yes.
Mr. Lamella?
Yes. Thank you.